So here we are at the Salvation Army, and I've got with me the editor of The Rough Sleeper, Tony Evans. Hi Tony.
Hi.
Can you tell us a bit about what you've been arranging with the two Speakouts?
Certainly. The first Speakout was a open invitation to the homeless and to all the agencies that deal with homeless, the drug agencies, the alcohol agencies, etc., etc. And that was held at Charlesbury House. But unfortunately, I wasn't too well and I collapsed and wasn't able to stay the whole day. And people were coming up to me and saying, well, look, there were a lot of things that we didn't talk about that we wanted to talk about. Can we have another one?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, rather than have an open invitation one, we'd have an invitation-only one, thinking that it would be easier, but unfortunately it's not quite worked out that way. But even so, the idea is that the first one sort of concentrated on the council's homeless strategy, and there is so much more to homelessness that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And I feel that we push it to one side at the moment. We've all, let's hate the mayor, and we've got on that bandwagon, and we need to get off it. Yeah. And we need to start to look at mental health, not necessarily addictions, because everybody goes on the addiction side of things, but things like that. The youngsters, I mean, the amount of people that were here at the weekend for the soup kitchen, 20s, 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
30 years ago I'd have said join the army. Now I say, why?
Yeah.
Why are they being abandoned? And that's basically what's happening. And in Leicester, it's more so than any other town I've been to in the last 18 months. I'm not saying Leicester doesn't care, I think Leicester doesn't know. And I think that people like myself and the other organisations that are quickly getting set up need to start telling people.
Yeah.
And in a way that is non-confrontational.
Yeah.
I'm a very non-confrontational person. You can go and shout at anybody, and then they won't necessarily listen to you. Wheel your way in. I'm not saying be devious, but I'm saying be understanding and tell them exactly what you want. Then there's no mistakes. And tonight was about that. I had something I wanted to say. Unfortunately, I had an audience to say it to. I'm determined, I'm motivated, I'm going to get better.
Yeah. Now, I've just been looking at the statement of intent that you've been working on, and the things that you do find it, you want to get the message out about that, about such stuff like mental health in the homeless.
Yes, yes. I mean, one of the reasons that is I actually have been in the system. I was a patient at Carlton Hayes very many years ago, and I mean, we all know that care in the community didn't work, and unfortunately it's led to homelessness. And now people with any kind of a mental problem really don't know who to turn to, really don't know where to go, and they need help, they need support. I'm not suggesting that we go out every day and start bringing people home. What I'm saying is that if we give them the information and the wherewithal, let's motivate them.
Yeah. And, one thing that I've found particularly kind of shocking is the sort of like, the physical and verbal abuse towards rough sleepers.
Every weekend. Yeah. Every weekend. I live in the centre of town, right in the smack centre of town, and every night my carer and I listen to the fights, to the abuse. Go get a job, scruffy individual, so. Not very nice, especially when you are really there to get something to eat. Yeah. You're not there to feed a habit. You are homeless, you are in need of money. Not everybody wants to get a can, not everybody wants to get a bag of heroin. And they are being, every weekend, like I say, and one day somebody's going to get killed.
Yeah, and I've been hearing stories of people being urinated upon, set fire to.
Set fire to. I mean, there's a mentality about homelessness and about people on the streets that needs to be looked at and changed. It's they're there because they want to be there. Well, I'm sorry, but they don't. They don't want to be there. And we need to understand that. We need to realise that and help them to move on. Because a lot of people who are homeless, a lot of people who are living on friends' sofas, etc., are stuck in a rut. We all know about depression. These people are really depressed. To a point where there's going to be a death.
Yeah. Another thing you say you're concerned about in your manifestos is health concerns of rough sleepers.
Health concerns are important, including healthcare that set themselves up as a social enterprise have been absolutely magic. I mean, Jane Grey and Dr. Hiley should receive sainthood because they have put the homeless before themselves. But even so, there are still people who feel that going to the doctors is something they can't do. Admitting that you've got ingrowing toenails or what you've not washed your feet for a couple of days takes some guts.
Yeah.
The right clothing. We've had some very, very cold weather, and not a lot of people have got thick, warm coats. So how do you look after yourself? How do you avoid hypothermia? Only the other week there was a gentleman in one of the towns up north who was buried in a cardboard coffin. He died of hypothermia. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the people that buried him were the people that had ignored him.
Oh, the irony.
Exactly.
So another thing you're interested in is the relationship between the police and homeless people.
I think it's important because it's all very well the general public feeling safe and being able to go to the police. Homeless people don't feel like that. They feel they will be not necessarily ignored, but not taken quite as serious as others. For instance, if a homeless person or a street beggar or even a street drinker is attacked and goes to the police, they will be told that they've asked for it, that they've put themselves in a position where it was inevitable. Move on. As I say, it's wrong. It shouldn't be. So we've got to try and develop a relationship. I want to work, or try and work with as I said, Chief Superintendent Rob Nixon, who I've not yet spoken to, but I will. And if we can get some kind of a rapport going where he comes and meets the homeless people himself, I think he'll find they are human beings after all.
Yeah. We've heard tonight some stories about the pressures that are going on the churches as more things occur. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's so unfair to be able to turn around and say they've been doing it for so long. Let them carry on with it. They obviously enjoy it. It's not a question of enjoy. It's a question of fulfilling a need, both in themselves and in the people that they serve. But to then turn around and say, well, they're going to get an extra workload in April when all these changes come about. I see that as being a dereliction of responsibilities by the council. And something that they're expecting an organisation like the Salvation Army and Trinity Church and Open Hands to take on. Have they got the funds? Have they got the will? Have they got the motivation? Are they doing enough?
Yeah. And one thing that was interesting me tonight is say with services closing or changing, is about education and training for
I've always believed that homeless people aren't stupid. You have plumbers, you have electricians, you even have teachers. Yeah. And my story about the bank manager isn't a lie. Yeah. My bank manager is homeless.
Yeah.
From a long, long time ago, mine. But anyway, we need to give them a way forward where they can retake up those qualities and those trades and those talents that they had. They're wasted. Why have volunteers? Not that I'm saying don't have volunteers. What I'm saying is let the homeless run some of the things that the volunteers do. In Leeds and in Stoke, they set up a project where the homeless actually get to say what their budget is spent on.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be brilliant here? But just to close down 3 hostels, to make all these cuts, and then to walk away.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not going to happen.
And finally, Tony, can you tell us a little bit about the Rough Sleeper, why you started it?
The Rough Sleeper, I've always been into newspapers, journalism. I'm a published author. Yeah. I travelled America for 7 years writing romantic novels. I came back and I've done newspapers for the probation service. I've done newspapers for the prison. Yeah. I won the Financial Times Award at Wandsworth Jail for a prison newspaper. And when I came to Leicester, I realised that there wasn't anybody that actually stood up and said what they meant. Yeah. the Leicester Mercury would skirt. Community newspapers are about communities. I wanted to be a newspaper that everybody could read. And I was going to say what I wanted to say. And I was going to give them a platform to say what they wanted to say. So although we're not political, we've got no allegiance to any political party, if you've got a complaint, if you want to have a moan, come and see me. I'll publish it.
But it's not just about moaning. I mean, I've been really impressed with the Rough Sleeper, the scope of stories you've covered.
Well, we also have tried to stretch out. I mean, we have 2 drop-in centres, one in Chicago and one in New York, who are interested in sending people over here to see how we cope. Obviously, in America, it's very much different. They have vouchers and such forth. We have one in Germany. Years and years ago, when I was in Germany, a drop-in centre would be unheard of, but they are having problems as well. So I like to sort of tell people that they're not on their own, that in other countries they're having the same kind of problems. Plus the fact we seem to be isolated from London. London seems to be an entity on its own, a bit like Scotland's getting to be. And we need to begin to develop attitudes, fallbacks, communities where I can come to you and say, I've got an idea. And you're not going to turn around and say, well, so do I, go away. I want to be listened to. If I'm homeless, if I'm not homeless, if I'm a young 21-year-old or a young 16-year-old that's just left school, and I have an idea, I want somebody to listen to me.